Sometimes YouTube isn't the best educational tool, but sometimes it pans out. There you go. Not bad for off the cuff. All right. So, not my best, but could have been a lot worse.
Yes.
Anyway, my desperate bid to catch up on the massive backlog I have. We're doing two of these reviews tonight. So the first one we had is you saw a couple weeks ago. I saw last week. Or was it this week? No, it was earlier this week because the time. What does time mean anymore?
Yeah, it's all blurring together anyhow.
I started this last week, but then on the same day I was hit with terrible news, and I was like, I'm not in the mood to watch a movie about domestic violence today, so I'm gonna put this off for a little while. And I
That's
finally
fair.
finished up earlier this week. Thankfully, it's a pretty short movie, so it's not like a huge commitment. But I'm stalling because I don't know how much I have to say about this one. Herself.
Well, you kind of
It's
touched
good.
on one of the things that I liked about it is that it doesn't really have much lag time. It like you said, it's a pretty short film, so it goes along at a decent clip.
Yeah.
Gives enough time for the characters to breathe and for you, the viewer, to get an idea of who these people are. But it doesn't take more time than it needs.
Yeah, so for those who don't know what this movie is, Herself is an indie Amazon movie about this woman who lives in Ireland. I don't want to say it was like Ireland, Scotland, somewhere in there.
Ireland, yes.
Ireland, okay, I thought so. Who has two daughters, is basically in a horribly abusive marriage after a critical moment, let's say. At which point she has to try to figure out where the hell she's going to live because she can't afford anything. So she eventually decides that fucking I'm going to build my own house after being inspired by this DIY project that someone put up on YouTube. And the rest of the movie is about just how she accomplishes it and what happens afterwards. That's like the most Cliff Note version of this movie. It's like plot wise, it's pretty straightforward. Where it succeeds for the most part is the fact that, for one, it actually makes the construction of this interesting, which is not easy to do. But what I liked about this movie in particular is the main character, who I'm blanking on her name.
Sandra.
Is a very likable protagonist, and this movie does have a very good
and realistic.
Yeah, realistic, likable character. This movie has a very good. What's the best way to phrase? I liked how this movie definitely was aiming to bring out the best in people as opposed to the worst.
Agreed.
What seems to be the central theme here is the fact that as a community, when it's working as it's supposed to, it actually works to bring people up rather than tear people down, despite people that will actively still try to tear you down, which, like, in the case of the movie, largely boils down to bureaucracy, the court system, paperwork, which all do not help people in any way, shape. Well, not in any way, shape, or form, but they harm a lot more than they help in a lot of cases.
Unfortunately, yes.
Of course, now that
they
I've
kind
said,
of gum up the works, as it were.
Of course, now that I've said that, I now realize the movie's basically about community versus bureaucracy, which is kind of interesting now I put it like that. So by that nature, she basically convinces all these people to help her out, and basically just work on the side project that pretty much determines her entire future, all while her ex-husband is doing are they officially divorced by the time the second act starts? Or
I got the impression that they were separated. Her abusive husband was living with his parents.
Well, they're separated, yeah, but I wonder if that was divorced. I guess it doesn't really matter.
Whether or not they were officially divorced was unclear. They were definitely legally separated at the very least.
At the very least.
And they have two adorable daughters played by top-notch kid actors. So I give those girls props.
I mean,
Um,
how much of those acting is so much as they just let the kids be kids and they just follow around with cameras.
which works. There's nothing wrong with the naturalistic film style.
Oh, that wasn't a criticism. That was
Um,
an observation.
yes, and for the purposes of the separation and the various bureaucratic hoops that that Sandra has to jump through to receive, I think they call it women's aid,
Yeah.
and a rent stipend. They're she and her daughters are living in a hotel at to maintain
But don't
her
spoil
her
all of
aid or her assistance. Sorry.
I see where you're going with this. Like, no, save at least some of it.
The
Actually, like, stop this video and go watch it and then come back.
well, I'm just trying to get at that the kids have to go visit their dad at
Okay.
their grandparents' house.
Sorry, I thought you were like
as part of
about halfway through. That kind of leads into the climax.
no, I'm just trying to establish the relationships when we meet the characters.
My bad. I jumped ahead. That's on me. But yes, so they have shared custody. The dad gets like the kids on like the weekends or whatever the case may be. One of them doesn't want to go, and that becomes a thing. Without going too much into spoilers, and when that leads, and the rest of it is pretty much her just working on this house and all the nice people that actually help her make the damn house, and like all helped by this doctor that she comes clean for that has her own kind of arc where apparently just. Hey, like joy and happiness cure her knees, I guess, or whatever it was. I was one of those guys like, yeah, all right, it's symbolic. I'll go with it.
The power of the mind. Yeah.
I mean, it really does. Like, actually, being hopeful about the future is actually like a legitimate like tool for healing. Anyway, go ahead.
At the movie also does not shy away from showing you how tirelessly hard Sandra works, not just on this DIY project, which she tries to keep on the down low, for I think her own peace of mind. But she's also, like you just said, cleaning for Dr. O'Toole is the woman's title. I don't remember her first name.
That's
and she's also working at a bar. I couldn't tell if she was bartending or just kind of cleaning and serving, but
she seemed like a buster to me.
It looked like it looked like she had at least 2 paying jobs in addition to all the work she was putting in on this DIY project.
Yeah. So basically, it's her trying to establish a future for children in a spot where she is not making a lot of money because the courts are pretty much taking everything that she makes, while also trying to rely on welfare programs, which are also very restrictive by design. God knows I've worked with enough people that rely on that stuff. That is a pain in the ass. And they do not make it easy. Granted, I can only speak for America because I can't speak for Ireland's, which I'm assuming, I don't know if it's better or worse, somewhere in between. I don't know. But either way, just if it's anything like America, systems like this are typically designed to like sustain people, I guess is the best way to describe it. And they definitely look for any reason to take it away, which becomes a point later on. And I think by this point we can kind of start getting into spoilers a little bit. I think we've gotten all the broad strokes out of the way.
So now that we're ready for the spoiler warning for people who do want to watch this movie, do you recommend it? Yay, nay?
I recommend it. It's a good indie movie. It's a good Amazon movie. Go watch it. It's on Amazon Prime. I recommend it. It's a good hour and a half.
Agreed.
I kind of had issues with the ending, which I'll talk about, but overall, like I say, it's net positive. It's pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Same. So this is your spoiler warning. If it sounds interesting to you, then go and watch it, and then come back and watch the rest of this.
Yes, please.
Review.
For God's sake, please do. So yeah, one thing I didn't want to talk about was two aspects of the ending I didn't want to talk about. One is the court scene, because I thought the commentary there was very interesting, and very prevalent. That is a real thing that happens, especially when it comes to making accusations against men in a lot of cases. Again, I'm only speaking for America's court system. I'm not trying to speak for Ireland's or any other countries.
Well, certain family situations are universal.
True. But I don't know if I don't think it's fair to assume court systems are, or at least
no, they're not. There are different justice systems and different systems of government throughout the world.
Yeah. My point is the fact that whenever you have court cases that accuse men of bad behavior, the bad behavior of the men is never the thing that's questioned. It's always questioned the credibility of the victim blaming, basically.
Why didn't you leave sooner?
Why didn't you leave sooner? As opposed to, what Stella?
Sandra.
I'm terrible. Don't get irritated, Sarah. You know this about me by now. Come on.
Sorry. My name is Sandra.
I know it bugs you.
Different people have pet peeves. Mahan calls you racist. I get annoyed when you mess up names.
Fair enough. All right. That's valid. I'll give you that. That's perfectly valid. So anyway, Sahara. No, I'm kidding. Sandra. So
now you're just trying to troll me.
So Selma goes on and says, I know. I'm sorry. So Sama Lama Ding Dong comes along. Getting a lot of mileage out of this joke. Anyway.
Okay.
And also, Sandra, switching gears, makes a very good point, where she says, like, why are you asking me the stupid question of why didn't I leave sooner, as opposed to why did he do what he did for so long, which is a real thing.
Yeah, why aren't you asking him why didn't you stop?
Yeah, exactly. That but it's a basic premise that goes into a lot of things, especially in accusation against men in romantic relationships. You see it a lot with that's why it's so hard. It's so difficult to prosecute like rape cases, is because of that similar like victim blame mentality. There's always this weird assumption that the woman is lying somehow, and it's this weird obsession with trying to protect a man's reputation, which is just so stupid.
Patriarchal societies.
And while this movie doesn't go too much into it, does it make enough valid points to go like, yeah, now when you put it like that, it's like, why isn't this questioned more? Like, it's such an obvious thing, but for some reason, like, we will question the shit out of the victim before we ever start asking the same of the one, like, what's the word? Abuser. There you go. That's what I'm looking for. My brain is waking up. It's been a long couple weeks. I'm not in a great mental space. I'm doing the best I can, guys. Bear with me. Words are hard, especially
one thing, or one aspect about that courtroom scene that took me out of it a little bit. Not that I'm complaining from a storytelling point of view, because I was very glad to see her speak up and turn the tide in her favor, and self-advocate. It was ever so slightly unrealistic, because most lawyers wouldn't let their clients speak so freely like that.
This is the case where I was okay. Again, one, I don't know how Scottish courtrooms work. So, not Irish. God damn it.
Irish.
I caught myself on that one.
You did.
I don't know how the Irish court system works compared to America. Maybe they let them do that there. I don't know. Somebody from Ireland, like, correct me in the comments. I legitimately don't know. So I don't know how fair is it to levy that criticism against it. But I just know, like, it in a dramatic narrative standing where it's all about, like, speak your truth and don't be afraid and learn how to overcome your anxiety and the fear that is brought on by massive trauma. I thought it worked well as, like, an emotional climax of sorts. And I thought it brought some very good points. So that's a case where I'm willing to forgive that unrealistic plot hole, if you will. But
yeah, same. That's a minor nitpick on my part, because I did enjoy it from a storytelling perspective. It was nice to see.
And I think one of them did legitimately bother me, not to a massive extent, not to, like, really detract from the movie, but the way this movie kind of ends, I felt was a little anticlimactic. And I felt like it could have used an extra 10 minutes. Because
agreed, it is a bit sudden.
Because what happens is they get this house built. She wins her. She still maintains custody of her kids. All good stuff. But then the ex-husband comes around and burns the house down out of anger, which, like, I've known abuse victims. That's a real thing that can happen. Especially, you know, when all the other manipulation tactics they try don't work, which you see the full gambit here, which is if you can't convince them to take you back, they'll try to control you, which is exactly what happens.
And
when that doesn't work,
he does try being sweet and nice and flattering and the all, I miss you, is this really good for our kids? And then he calls her degrading names and insults her. He does run the full gambit in the few on-screen interactions they have together.
Yeah, and those are very, very common things. Even what the doctor says to her later on, which is just like, I know you want to fix him, and that way abusers pick those people on purpose because of that. Not that I need to explain this to you, explain to the audience. Sorry, I lost train of thought. But, like, eventually that is the cycle. Is like, if they can't convince you, they will try to control you. If they can't control you, they'll try to hurt you. If they can't hurt you, they'll go straight for revenge. That's pretty much the cycle of abuse in a nutshell. Granted, that is a very, 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 very simplistic way of looking at it. And that's why I liked what the doctor said when Sophie is telling the doctor about. So I couldn't resist.
When Sandra is telling the doctor.
Yes, yeah, that's what I mean. Savannah. That's when Savannah is telling the doctor. Sorry, I know. When Skylar is telling the doctor. Okay, that was the last one, I promise. Okay. So when Sandra is telling the doctor about kind of having her grievances, like, she, like, even despite everything that's happened, there's still a part where he wants to fix it, which is also a very real thing. She basically, doctor just basically responds like, I understand that, but no, some people just aren't gonna do that. And that's the hardest lesson I've seen a lot of people go through, either people that have abusive relationships who are susceptible to them, and even, like, survivors, people who manage to get out, still have that same complacency of, like, oh, if I did this differently, if I acted differently, if I said this right or did that right, and that somehow would have changed things. And God knows, I'm realizing I had my, like, abuse my entire goddamn childhood, and I had those same thoughts. So as well as I'm not I can't speak from a romantic standpoint, although that's up for debate in a couple circumstances. That mentality of, oh, it's really my fault. If I just change something, then I can fix it. That's a very real mentality, but it's also how you get stuck.
Yes, and sometimes people never have that, what I call light bulb moment, where they realize that they can only control what they do. They can't control what people outside of themselves do.
And that's a difficult reality to sit with. It is.
Yes, it
And
is.
it's
Took me individually a long time and a lot of personal work to learn that.
I'm still struggling with it. Like if I'm being completely honest. But it's because people like it's the way for the victims to feel like they have some control of the situation by controlling the only thing they can at that point. But the problem is you get trapped in that cycle where you're trying to change yourself to change them, but they have no inclination to do the same. And they know by you trying to do that they have control over you, which is the entire point. I hope that makes sense. This got on a way more serious tangent than I intended. But
fair enough.
Yeah, so my point is, like, I like those themes. I think those are very real things. Like, those are very personal themes. And I feel like anyone who's gone through something like that will understand that experience. Now, why that takes us to the ending, why I was kind of disappointed by it, is the fact that it kind of ends with the house being burned down. They look at the ashes in the morning, and they kind of start shoveling up, and that's where the movie ends. I was like, I would have enjoyed an extra 5 to 10 minutes just to see, like, I don't know, like, do they, like, just for a more wrapped up epilogue. Like, I personally would have seen, like, the cut to they built a new house, or they found new funding, or the community came together to do this or that. I personally would have liked to kind of see that come full circle rather than kind of end this ambiguous style. I get why they did it, but it was a little unsatisfying.
Agreed. Although I will say that I got the impression that it was implied when she comes out after being devastated with depression and bedridden for what's implied to be days, because you see different visitors in the background, including her former mother-in-law who tells her that her ex-husband was apprehended and is locked away for a long time, and tells Sandra point blankly, "You're free."
Yeah.
And then there's kind of a nice role reversal where Dr. O'Toole, who Sandra had helped up in an earlier part of the movie, helps Sandra up and out of bed, and she walks out to the site where the house was to see her daughters looking for screws through the ashes, and one of them says that they're saving them for their new house. And then I kind of got the impression that showing Sandra just sort of look somewhat contemplative and then starting to shovel ash was her way of communicating to the audience how she was accepting her new path to start over.
I mean, that's what I got out of it too. I feel like this is the case where I feel like it would have done better to actually see it as opposed to imply it.
Agreed. I selfishly, I would have liked to see them even just a speed montage of them constructing it again, and seeing her and her daughters move in. I feel like that would have been a more satisfying, more like fairy tale ending.
Oh, fairy.
But
endings by their nature aren't necessarily fairy tale. They're just,
yes,
happy.
Yes. But I think this ending is more keeping in the theme with the whole pull yourself up from your bootstraps and put in the work aspect of Irish culture.
I could see that. Like I said, I feel like this one definitely applies more of a group effort to do so rather than the individual, which is that
yes,
that's more American.
Oh yeah, we as Americans are a very individualistic society, which is
That's dark. That's
it is not very common in the larger.
I'm not getting on that soapbox today. I'm not in the mood.
But I do want to say one last thing that in 2018 or 2019, I saw another good independent film that takes place in Ireland. It was called Wild Rose. I recommend that too. That had a few kind of similarities or parallels about a single mom with two kids who had to go overcome some obstacles and grow to achieve her goals. So that's why I'm thinking some of those themes might be a staple of some modern films that take place in Ireland. And if anybody from Ireland is watching this, please feel free to correct me. That's just an impression that I have from my limited viewing experiences.
Was her name That was the last one. I swear to God, I couldn't. I literally Googled names that start with S, and I'm just going down the list.
I'm surprised you didn't come up with Sissy.
Nah, Sissy's not on the list. I should have done with Sissy though. That would have been a good one. I liked that movie, Wild Rose, and I like this movie herself. I think they would make an interesting double feature. Yeah, like that's kind of like I don't think it's gonna make my top 10 list this year, but I was like for a short little indie drama on Amazon, I recommend it. It's a pretty good movie.
It is.
Now, granted, my opinion might be skewed based on recent events, but for what I'm feeling right now, I thought it stands pretty well on its own. So,
I guess we'll find out in about 10 months.
Oh God, I hope it's not this year's not so bad that that's our top contender. Not that necessarily be a bad thing, but I'm hoping oh God.
I thought it was pretty strong.
I think it's a good movie. I just don't know if I would say it's not one I would actively watch out again for having a deep emotional experience. That's all.
Fair enough. I mean, you saw more current releases last year than I did. So.
And now the HBO thing, I'm probably going to watch a lot more this year, for better or worse, despite what that might do to the theater industry. That's a whole nother soapbox moment I'm not going to get on. So I'm going to wrap up here.
I'm worried about that, but that's for another time.
That is a different topic from another time. In the meantime, let's get to the dig.
So thank you for watching this review. Maybe we'll see you soon with the dig.
Yep. See you in a bit. Bye.